So maybe we shall start. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to who is joining from China. My name is Alessio Petino. I'm the knowledge coordinator of the EU SME Centre in Beijing. It's a great pleasure to come to today's webinar. I have to say that we wanted to do this offline. We wanted to have to invite people in different cities, Guangzhou, Beijing, Shanghai, but unfortunately the situation doesn't allow. So we switched this webinar entirely online. Anyway, the topic of today's webinar is cosmetics. Cosmetics is obviously a very important topic in the EU, in the European Union. At the same time, it's a sector that in China last year went through major changes, and there was a new major regulatory framework entering into force, and there was also major changes in the field of animal testing. So we decided to do this webinar today to provide an update on these major changes. Basically, two aspects. The first aspect is the impact of the new regulation, the cosmetic supervision and administration regulations, in terms of number of new products notified, registered, but also the new requirements for the notification or registration process, as well as the impact of this animal testing exemption that companies could get. Is it something that is really useful? Is it something that is really being used by European companies, and so on? So we are going to explore these two aspects in detail. Before starting, I would like to spend a few words as usual about the EU SME Centre. The EU SME Centre is a project funded by the European Union since 2010. And our objective or mission is to help European SMEs to get ready to do business to China, in China, to get to know China, to help them export to China, and so on. We are implemented by a consortium of 5 chambers of commerce and business organizations that you can find on the bottom of the slide. And among these, the Italian chamber is the coordinator of the consortium, and today is actually co-hosting this webinar together with us. And of course, the other one is also the European Union Chamber of Commerce, UCCC. We're very happy to have this webinar co-hosted by 2 of our consortium partners. So we partner up with many organizations, government, business, and we also have a physical office in Beijing, which is where I am now. So usually during sensitive times, you any time, and we could have a chat with any moment. So very short, very briefly, we provide 4 main types of service. The first is what we call knowledge center. We have basically we write reports, studies on different sectors, cross-cutting issues, and they're all free to download. And actually, 2 months ago, we updated one of our flagship reports, which you can find here. This is a screenshot from our website. And this report was about cosmetics. Basically, we integrate the changes brought by the new regulations since last year, and we also include many details about animal testing. But there are many others, not only on cosmetics, of course, in many sectors. We have an advice center. Basically, it's a sort of help desk that companies, business associations can use to reach out to us, to have one-to-one calls with our experts, and to ask us any questions you might have. Even technical questions like, for instance, details about the notification process of cosmetics, or which standards or labeling requirements for the cosmetics, and so on. Then we have a training center, which is basically what we're doing today. We do webinars, workshops on different aspects of different business aspects. And this is actually all webinars we do, we record them and publish the recording on our YouTube channel. We are going to do the same today, so you will be able to rewatch this webinar also in the next days. And this is a screenshot from our YouTube channel. And last, we have an advocacy platform through which we try to organize working group meetings on new regulations, policies, drafts for comments, and so on. So this is an overview of couple of initiatives, events we have planned for the next days. Actually, there is one next week, still somehow related to cosmetics. It's about chemical substances in China, but how to explore chemical substances in China, how to notify them, how to register them. But it's mostly about hazardous chemicals, not much about cosmetics. We are keeping the two things separate. So you're welcome to join. This is free. Now, before going ahead, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Vincenzo Rafa from China International Chamber of Commerce for a few words. Vincenzo.
Ciao Alessio, thank you all. I will be super brief. This is Vincenzo from the China International Chamber of Commerce, live from Guangzhou. I would like to brief you on who we are, who is the China International Chamber of Commerce. We are the only business organization recognized by both the Italian Ministry of Economic Development, MISE, and the People's Republic of China government, Ministry of Civil Affairs. The aim of the Italian Chamber is to boost the internationalization of Italian businesses and to promote the Made in Italy in the PRC. The CSCC was established in 1991, currently has 7 offices nationwide, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, where I'm speaking, being the most important cities. Each territory we are is a center, so we are partner, let's say, of a so-called Italian system, following the embassy and the local consulates, as well as other partners. Our chamber ranks 11th among all the Italian chambers worldwide, and our members reached over 800 in 2021, representing the Italian business community, such as public invested and multinational corporations, small and medium enterprises, and service companies. Our chamber is based on our industry-specific working groups, with the industry peer focusing on shared topics and looking for common solutions. We can see here all the 12 working groups currently activated in the chamber. The CSCC offers a variety of services to SMEs and corporations, such as business context, business and market analysis, media and communication consultancy for the local market, and consultancy service overall for companies that are interested in the Chinese market. Please visit us to know more at www.cameretachina.com and follow us on WeChat, LinkedIn, and other social media. Thank you all, and wish you all a good and informative seminar.
Thank you, Vincenzo, for the very concise introduction about the chamber. Actually, we're also very happy to have today UCCC, the European Chamber, and there is going to be a representative speaking a bit later. So now I would get into the content of the webinar. It's a great pleasure to welcome today Ms. Vian Fang, who is the business director of Enterco. Vian has been working for many years in the cosmetics sector, in particular as regulatory analysis. She has been working with many industry giants, but also hundreds of foreign SMEs, and she helped all these companies with thousands of imported products, completed the registration notification of thousands of important cosmetics products in China. She has a lot of experience. She has many insights to share, and thank you, Vian, for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you here. So the floor is yours. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you the invitation from the EU SME CICC and also the EUCC. I'm Vian I'm from Untitled Technology. We are a specialized regulatory compliance consulting company just for the cosmetic industry. So just 1 second, let me share my screen for today's first topic. Okay, so I hope everyone currently can see the screen clear. And
yes.
If you have any question or anything need help during the webinar, I think you can just leave the message in the chatting box, right? Okay, so today I'm going to share with you our current recent understanding and suggestions on the China's cosmetic policy, and at this very important and special time because the implementation of the new regulations in 2022 has just completed 3 months, and more new policy will be started since next month. So we will share with you the impact of the current new policy from 4 aspects, including the new product filing status in the first quarter, how to prepare registration and filing materials that meet the requirements, and what changes will be made in following 2 years, and also any difficulties we need to notice in advance. So before we start the main topics, considering that today some friends may not have the experience of registering and filing cosmetics in China in the past, let's just briefly go over some basic concepts. The first thing is that cosmetics are daily chemical used on the surface of the human body. So oral products, intimate care, intimate wash, antibacterial products are not considered as cosmetics in China. And second, in China, cosmetics are divided into general and special cosmetics according to the product efficacy. The special cosmetics refers to 5+X categories, which are whitening, sunscreen, hair dye, hair perm, anti-hair loss, and the new functions. And the products other than the special cosmetics are all general cosmetics. And special cosmetics follow the registration management system, and general cosmetics follow the filing, or we also call it a notification management system. And since most of our products are general cosmetics, so many of our content today will be analyzed and discussed with the general cosmetics as a reference. So now let's officially enter the first topic, the filing records data analysis of imported general cosmetics. So after each imported general cosmetic is filed in China, the authority will publish its basic information on website, such as the product name, the company name, the ingredient list, the place of origin, extra information. Since 2018, we have started to collect and analyze these filing data. Since we think that to some extent that this data can reflect the trend of new products in the Chinese market. So since last year, we can also see that the adaptation of the entire industry under the policy changes through the status of filing records. Here we can see that, let's take a look at how the industry adapts to the new regulations in the early 2020. In the first 3 months, only around 820 imported general cosmetics completed the filing, and of which 26% were independently produced by the brand itself. This is also close to our usual statistics. We always find that about 60 to 70% of the products in the industry are produced by the third-party factories. And in March, last month, a total of 120 companies from 20 regions completed their applications. But this data was still a far lower number than the previous 2 years. And let's take a closer look at the detailed comparison. First of all, regarding the number of the new filed general products, you can see that the yellow bar chart is the number of new filings every month since May last year, and the red show the number this year. In May last year, there was a major policy reform, that is, all cosmetic registration and filing work was migrated to a new online application platform. And as a result, all companies, regardless of whether they have registered cosmetics in China in the past, need to reapply for accounts and adapt to the new platform rules. Therefore, in June last year, you will see that almost no new products have been filed. However, in the following months, the company continued to adapt to the new regulatory requirements and the platform operating rules. And the number of new products continued to rise. And also there is a surge in December 2021, as everyone can guess. We think because there is a new wave of policy implementation launched in January this year. So facing the uncertainty of the new policy, many companies decided to complete as many new products filings as possible before the implementation in last year. So the fact is that everyone saw that at the beginning of this year, the number of new product filings returned to the bottom. The total number of new products in the first quarter only accounted for 24% of the single month of December last year. Here we could see that from the red bar chart, it shows the original regions of the new filed products in the first quarter. The same situation as in previous years is that the top 4 countries with new filings are still France, South Korea, the United States, and Japan. But the difference is that in the past 3 years, the number of new imported filed cosmetics from South Korea has been far ahead. But in this year, under the new regulations, it seems that the French brands have the highest adaptability and the fastest response. And you may heard that for our overseas applicants, it's very important to authorize a company in China who is called a domestic responsible person to complete the registration and filing work together. So currently the filing application is submitted to the Provisional Medical Products Authority, where the local responsible person based. So Shanghai has always the largest number of new filed products because of the gathering a group of responsible persons of the top tier international brands. And Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Beijing have many business trade agents and distributors for imported cosmetics. So every year, they are also the main places for introducing the new imported cosmetics into China. So from the previous data collection, we can see that the new filed product increment in the first quarter this year is not as good as before. Also based on our recent experience and feedback from other companies, this could be necessarily related to the implementation of the new regulations. Especially the new regulations involve not only the brand side, but also the factory, the raw material suppliers. So many companies have spent longer than the expected to collect the information. So here for next part, we will just take a look at what materials need to be provided for registration and filing under the new regulations. I have prepared a lot of operation samples and file templates, but obviously we can discuss each file in detail with you in these 30 minutes today. So after the meeting, you can get the slides, and if you have any questions, just contact me. So from the project, it's a project process of Antico. So we usually divided the entire filing project into 5 stages, namely 0, the account application, the first one, the product review, the second, product testing, the third, the documents completion, and the fourth, the dossier completion and submission. Each module has its sequence, and some modules can be carried out at the same time. We can take a look at the content of each module in detail. The first about the account application. So setting up an account will involve several companies, mainly our brand owner. We also call them the registrator or the filing person under regulation, and the domestic response person and the manufacturer. Here, I just focus on listing the responsibilities and obligations that the applicant needs to pay attention to under the new regulations. And due to the time constraints, we will not go into the details. I propose you can firstly focus on that the brand owner, the applicant, needs to be equipped with the quality and safety responsible person with 5 years of experience in cosmetic production or quality control. And you also must have your own quality management system. Even if you don't do the production by yourself, you entrust a third party to produce it. And this interface is the new cosmetic registration and filing platform that we have implemented since last year, the May last year, the online office of the National Medical Products Administration. And this platform is not only for the cosmetics, but also for the business, for medicines and medical devices. So firstly, a Chinese company needs to open a corporate account on this platform. For this step, it is not difficult. Here is a list of the basic information that the Chinese company needs to provide. And with a basic corporate account, we can enter the registration and filing platform, which is divided into 3 functional modules: the corporate information management, filing of general cosmetics, and the registration of special cosmetics and new cosmetic ingredients. However, having a corporate account does not mean that we can use all these functions. Here we need to introduce a concept that is different from previous regulation. We call it user rights. For an overseas brand, the corporate account belongs to the Chinese company, which means your local responsible person in China. And only by using the responsible person's account, we can apply for the user rights for 3 companies: the registration or the filing person, the domestic responsible person, and the manufacturer. So here is a list of the materials need to be provided by different companies for applying the user rights, such as the basic company information, the resumes of the quality and safety responsible person. So you can read them in detail after the seminar. And regarding what we mentioned earlier, the filing person also need to have their own quality management system. This may be a little unfamiliar to the companies that not do the production by themselves. So in this case, you can refer to the content on the right side of the table to check whether you have a corresponding management system. For example, to see if you have the management system on how to manage or supervise the third-party factories. And overseas factories also need to provide production-related qualification documents. Here, I just gave an example of a good manufacturing practice certificate. What everyone should pay attention to is that the certificate cannot be a self-declaration. It must be issued by a third-party institution or a government agency. While opening the accounts and user rights, many companies will also at the same time to start the first stage, the product review. After all, this is the key to the success of the filing. And the formula is the most essential key. This page shows a template of basic formula that we need to submit to the Chinese government, including ingredient INCI, the concentration, the function, and real material supplier information. Let's look at some key elements, starting with the INCI. Everyone is familiar with INCI, which is the naming method of the ingredients in our industry. The ingredients in formula must be referred to by the standard INCI, and then we can provide the standard Chinese name translation according to the INCI. After we make sure we have a standard INCI, then we need to understand which ingredients are available in China and which are not. This graph shows that the ingredient management method in China, we just need focus on the idea of new cosmetic ingredients. If the ingredients are not listed in the IECIC, the inventory of existing cosmetic ingredient in China, then we can firstly to judge that they are new cosmetic ingredients. If the formula contains new cosmetic ingredients, then you need to consider to adjust the formula or pending the project until the new cosmetic ingredient is registered or filed. And second, let's focus on the formula composition and concentration. Here you can see that I have highlighted the second group of ingredients. You can find that the second group of ingredients is a mixed raw material, including the plant extract, the preservative, and also solvents, which we call them a compound ingredient in China. Everyone should pay attention to that. The composition of the compound ingredient, it needs to be clearly reflected in the formula. And the third, starting from the new policy in May last year, the real material trade name and manufacturer of each ingredient need to be marked in the formula. And since this year, a very important thing is to start the reporting of cosmetic ingredient safety data. The ingredient safety data is a new policy in this year. The data includes the composition, the suggested addition amount, the quality control, the production process, and other basic and safety information of ingredients. The raw material supplier can apply for an account and submit this relevant information on the designated online platform. Then the supplier can obtain a specific notification code for the ingredient produced by themselves. Then we can fill in this code in the product formula during the product filing and registration process. But if the raw material supplier is not willing to apply for the notification code, the applicant of cosmetic registration or filing can also submit the safety data during the registration and filing process. And the rule for the ingredient safety data submissions also has some transition points. First of all, this year, it is mandatory to provide ingredient safety data codes for 5 types of special raw materials for the newly registered or filed products. And from next year, we need to provide the safety data or codes for all the ingredients for the newly registered or filed products. Until May next year, the products which have been registered and filed before must to supplement all the ingredient data and codes. And because this information often needs to be provided by the raw material suppliers, we think it is also an important reason why there are few new product filings completed at the beginning of this year. And because the factories or the brands need to spend time to persuade, discuss, and finally get the cooperation from all the raw material suppliers. So at the first stage, besides the formula, we also need to check the original sales packaging. From the sales package, we can distinguish the category of the product, check whether the information is consistent and whether there is forbidden claim. For example, if the original package claims antibacterial or anti-inflammatory, the original sales package also needs to be modified and adjusted. So after the account and user right application and also the review process of formula and packaging are completed, we can carry out a series of mandatory tests in China. The test is divided into the categories listed here. I think today everyone is more concerned about the exemption of animal testing. So regarding this, let's follow up the latest status and the interpretation from the following experts today. And for the microbiological and physicochemical tests are the basic tests usually applied to all the products. So after the seminar, you can also first learn about the index requirements listed here. And during the testing, we usually will start the third phase of data preparation and completion together, such as the product implementation standard, the free sale certificate, the Chinese label. This page shows the content shall be included in the product implementation standard, most of which we have collected in the previous preparation process. So at this step, we can just focus on the red content, which is divided into manufacturing process and quality control. The first is the production process. Here I have made a simple example. Please just pay attention that the production process should reflect the relevant process parameters, such as the temperature, the pressure. And in addition, the ingredients listed in the production process must be reasonably matched with the ingredients in the formula. Regarding the product quality control, it will be divided into sensory index, like color, appearance, odor, and then the quality control of microbiology, chemical, and physical indexes. In addition to clarifying the index requirements of each quality parameter, it is also necessary to describe how you control these indicators. For example, if you do test on each batch, or if you try to control the raw material quality based on the specifications provided by the real material suppliers. Then for the free self-certificates, you can look at the relevant examples after the seminar, just focusing on 2 points. It must be issued by the government, associations, or chamber of commerce. It cannot be a self-declaration. And second, it must clearly indicate that the product is or has been sold, not allowed or may be sold. So more templates, you can check them later. And another new policy from this year is that each product must provide a safety assessment, no matter if you do toxicology test or not. I think this may not be unfamiliar to you. However, we should know that the acceptance of data for different ingredients is, China has its own standards. So the safety assessment is not exactly the same as the safety report in Europe. And from this year, we can choose to submit a simplified version of the safety assessment. And from May 2024, a completed version of safety assessment must be provided. The important difference between these two versions is the selection and acceptance of the ingredient safety data. At the same time, we also need to prepare the Chinese label of the product. Here is an example of a Chinese label. The imported products usually use the sticker which are affixed to the original packaging of the product. Because this model is more flexible, if there are corresponding regulatory changes, the company can ensure that only the stickers are modified, not the original packaging. The label regulation was issued last year, but will be enforced since next month this year. And if the product is produced by a third party, it is also necessary to provide a proof of the contracted processing relationship. You can check the detailed content in the sample after the seminar. And when the test and corresponding materials are ready, we can start to submit the product filing online and offline. So above what I just mentioned is based on the process and data for the general cosmetics filing. And for the general products, there is also another special case that the summary of product efficacy evaluation is not a part of the filing documents. And from this year, the newly filed cosmetics should pay attention and submit a summary of product efficacy evaluation after the filing is completed. But however, the regulations do not specify a specific submission time. So according to the actual operation of most companies in the first 3 months, there are 2 review standards for different local authorities. Some of cities and province. For example, in Shanghai, the local authority just asked the company to complete the summary of efficacy evaluation before the product is officially launched in China. But in some cities, the authority asks to submit the summary just within 5 working days after the product filing is submitted. And the efficacy evidence of the product must also comply with the corresponding principles of evidence. As you can see in this table, different efficacy claims require different levels of evidence. For example, anti-acne, nourish must provide the human trial test, and the moisturizing can choose to provide the literature data. And well, we have just go through the basic documents for registration and filing before, and we also talk about some of the requirements that was just implemented under the new regulation this year and will be implemented gradually in several stages. So here we just start with some deadlines and starting dates. For the deadlines, we need to pay attention on the date May 1st this year, June 30 this year, and May 1st next year. The deadlines are very, very important because if the related work is not completed by the deadline, the product certificate could be cancelled immediately. So first, for the old products registered before May 1st last year under the old system, old regulations, a data supplementary needs to be completed in the new system before May 1st this year. And here you can see that some data like product classification code, the implementation standard, which is applied to the new regulations, need to be submitted. And just in this morning, we received the latest announcement issued by Sichuan province. They decided to postpone the deadline to June 30. We guess and we hope that other provinces and cities may also extend the similar deadlines. And in addition, before May 1st this year, for the products registered from May 1st to December 31 last year under the new regulations, new system, the summary of the efficacy evaluation should be supplemented also. Here I put a screenshot that is what information will be announced to the public after the efficacy evaluation summary is submitted, such as the product name, the efficacy, the evaluation method. The time on May 1st is very tight, so everyone must check whether these two types of products are involved as soon as possible and complete the corresponding work in time. And before June 30, for general products filed before 2021, the companies need to complete the annual report submission. In fact, the original deadline for this work was March 31st. However, due to the recent impact of the epidemic, it is indeed difficult to complete the work on time. So in this month, some local authority like in Shanghai, Guangdong, Zhejiang, extended the deadline by issue announcements to June 30. And before May 1st, 2023, next year, for all products registered before 2023, we mentioned that the companies need to complete the ingredient safety data or code for all the ingredients in formula. And also before May 1st, 2023, the products registered before May 1st this year need to update the package and labels according to the new label regulations. And this is new regulation, we will mention it later. So in addition to focusing on the deadlines, we should also pay attention to the implementation status and standards of the new regulations in following years. So the first is the new label management regulation that will be implemented on May 1st, just the next month. The new label regulation adjusts the content that needs to be displayed on the Chinese label. You can view this slide later. For example, the Chinese label must display the name and address of the manufacturer. The INCI list will be divided into ingredients and other trace ingredients. However, it should be noted that for the imported products, the new labeling regulations do not only affect the Chinese label. All the packaging, labels, and instructions are all regulated by this regulation. For example, for the primary packaging, the new regulations will also ask that the Chinese name of products need to be put on the primary packaging. And the new label regulation has not yet been implemented, so the specific regulatory requirements are not yet clear. We suggest that everyone needs to have an appropriate expectation that in terms of the packaging compliance, it may take some time or more time to adapt to the new regulation. And earlier we talked about the preparation of very detailed documents. And here just some suggestions that you need to pay attention to. We mentioned formula is a key. It is a basic requirement to provide complete formula information. We can see from this table, some of ingredients share the same trade name. We can guess they are actually in a same group of the ingredients, which we call the compound ingredient. So these ingredients should be listed as a whole as a compound ingredient and showing the detailed composition. In the following slides, I selected some cases related to prohibited claims. For example, which kinds of symbols will be regarded as implying medical effect, implying baby use, And for example, if the package claims for the whole family use, then the product will be regarded as managed as the children product. Here is also some examples related to the label defects. For example, if the product label does not have expiry information, it could be subject to a fine of like 2,000 yuan. So you can check the more examples later and cases in the detailed slides you will get after the seminar. And last but very important notice is due to follow up the deadline and starting date of various regulations. And this is a complete one-page transition plan for the China cosmetics new regulations in China since the May 1st last year till the May 1st, 2024. The amount of the information is large and complicated, so we distinguish the situation of different products. So later you can check that what you need to do according to the product category. For example, for category A means the products that have been registered before the May last year under the old regulations. Then you can search what information the category A products need to supplement in the next 2 to 3 years. So, okay, this is the end for lots of information today. I'm very glad to be here to share with you. So let's see if you have any question or not.
Thank you, Vian, for the excellent and comprehensive presentation. Again, I would like to remind everybody we're going to share the slides after the webinar. We're also going to upload the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel. So don't worry, you will. I saw a couple of questions on this regard. Actually, speaking of which, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end, but we have already received some questions. Of course, I invite all the participants to submit all the questions you have in the Q&A box, but maybe we can go quickly through a couple of questions already. I will just select a couple from that we have received. One is, are details of the raw material supplier still required if a submission code is provided for the product notification?
Okay. Actually, in the formula, we still need to fill out the trade name and the manufacturer name of the raw material, even if we have the code. Because for the code, we cannot see the detailed information which the supplier submitted. So the authority will still ask us to provide the trade name and the manufacturer name in the formula, even if we have the code. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe another question. I see there is one relating to the relationship between the foreign manufacturer and the domestic responsible agent. Can it be a WOFE? Can it be a subsidiary of the same company?
Let me see. Okay, for the settle a wolf in China, would it be considered domestic? For distinguish the domestic and imported products, actually it depends on the final process which touch the content happen. For example, if we produce the semi-finished product in France, but we do the filing in China, the last step, the filing in China, then the product is regarded as domestic product. But if we do the whole process in France, then the product is considered as import product. So it actually doesn't matter if you have a WOF in China or not.
Okay, very good. And what about if a company, let's say a French company, has a subsidiary in China, can this subsidiary act as domestic responsible agent for the foreign
Yes,
company?
yes, sure, yes. Okay. You can have your subsidiary and also your partners in China or any consultant in China, the importer, to be your domestic responsible person.
Very good. Maybe one last question before we move forward. How to deal with the multiple sources for one raw material? Do you recommend to declare all the raw material suppliers?
It's a good question from the regulatory compliance perspective. Of course, we need to to be honest, we need to submit all the, I can see the question. We need to submit all the sources and the manufacturer of the real materials, but it will be a little complicated. So usually we suggest that for the products exporting to China, we can just designate it to 1 to 2 suppliers. It will be better.
Thank you. Very good. So there are other questions, but we're going to answer them maybe later at the end of the presentation. So thank you, Vian, again. What we're going to do next, we're going to focus a little bit on animal testing, which, as we mentioned at the beginning, it's a major change brought by the new regulations last year. I will give a very brief introduction of what are the requirements for applying and obtain an animal testing exemption. And then the speaker after me, who actually represent the European Chamber Cosmetics Working Group, they've been running an internal survey among their members, asking them feedback from the process of applying to for this animal testing. And it's really going to be a great, there are some great findings, and I recommend you to stay until that. So okay, this is not very interesting. Just to say, at the EU SME Centre, we regularly receive questions on cosmetics, on different aspects. And actually, if you have any questions, you can contact us anytime. Even if we're not doing any webinar on cosmetics, we are here for the time being, ready to answer any questions you have. So if you have questions tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, just let us know, write to us. So yeah, in terms of animal testing, China has long been associated to very strict animal testing for all cosmetics sold in the country. And this applies to, of course, imported cosmetics, but also those produced domestically. Basically, even if an imported cosmetic had a certification of being cruelty-free in China, no matter what, you had to go through mandatory animal testing if you wanted to have your product here. Some of these restrictions started to be relaxed from 2014, but only for cosmetics produced in China. So if you were to move your manufacturing here, then you would be exempted from this. But not if you were to export your cosmetics to China. So this means that cruelty-free brands, the only way they had to export their products, their cosmetics to China, was to do it via cross-border e-commerce. Cross-border e-commerce is one of the two main, let's say, market entry approaches. And in contrast to general trade, to normal trade, cross-border e-commerce, it's allows certain products to be sold online, and these products are considered personal goods, and this means that many of the certification requirement, conformity assessment, or standards requirements, do not need to be followed by these products because they're treated as personal goods. But of course, there are some limitations in terms of quantity that you can export, and of course, you can mostly do it. You can do it only as a B2C rather than a B2B model. So the situation changed radically last year. We mentioned, Vian mentioned in the presentation, in May, since May last year, the provisions for the management of cosmetics registration and notification dossiers came into force. This regulation basically allow all the general cosmetics to be exempted from mandatory animal testing when they are imported into China. Only under certain conditions, though. And it's also important to say that these regulations only applies for general cosmetics. We saw the distinction in the beginning, but for special cosmetics, this is still not possible, unfortunately. Special cosmetics still need to go through mandatory animal testing. There are a couple of exceptions, which I mentioned earlier. Cross-border e-commerce allow certain products to be sold online. And actually, there are two types of special cosmetics that can be sold online through cross-border e-commerce. I listed them here with the relevant HS code. So you can sell these products online and not without going through animal testing. But as I mentioned, you can only sell limited quantities online. Next, so I mentioned that general cosmetics might be exempted from animal testing if they meet the following three conditions. So the product does not claim to be used by infants and children. And by the way, since January this year, infants and children cosmetics are regulated by the new regulation, which came into force in January. The second condition is that the product does not contain new cosmetic ingredients. If it does, then it cannot be exempted from animal testing. And even if one ingredient is used in a foreign country, for instance, in Europe, but in China it's not used, then in China will still be treated as a new cosmetic ingredient. And the last requirement, the last condition is that the manufacturer, the notifier, or anybody or anybody involved with the company is not listed as a key supervision target. A key supervision target according to the results of quantitative rating system established by the National Medical Products Administration. So if you don't fall within these three conditions, then you can apply for animal testing exemption. The tricky part is that this is not an automatic thing. It's not that you are automatically excluded from animal testing. No, you should apply for it. And to do so, you should submit certain documents. The first most important document to be submitted during the notification process is the GMP certificate, the Good Manufacturing Practices certificate. This, of course, the certificate describes supervision of the entire manufacturing process and quality control systems. The tricky part, which is all the confusion around this regulation, is that this GMP certificate must be issued by a government authority, a government body where the manufacturing is located. So this means that GMP certificates issued by international certification organizations or cosmetics associations will not be valid, will not be accepted for this purpose. Only those issued by government bodies will be recognized. So why this was tricky? Because in the EU, actually, cosmetics manufacturers, of course, must produce cosmetics in line with GMP and the ISO 22716. The problem is that each member state supervises this, ensures this compliance in different ways. One way is through, of course, a GMP certificate issued by a certification organization or through self-declaration. The situation might change in different member states, but none of them issue directly GMP certificates. And this was an issue when this new regulation came into force. People were very excited about getting this exemption for animal testing. The problem is that in some European member states, the competent authorities did not have any procedures or authority for issuing such GMP certificates. Some of them were very rapid in reacting to this. They established procedures for releasing such GMP certificates. Some of them still haven't. So this is also the tricky part about this animal testing exemption. I would like to say that a couple of months ago at the EU SME Centre, because we were receiving many inquiries on this, many questions from European cosmetics manufacturer about what kind of government agency would issue this GMP certificate. So we decided to run a small, let's say, to involve directly the EU embassies operate in China. Thanks, of course, to the great support and help of the EU delegation. We contact all the various embassies, asking them to tell us which government agency within their country is able to issue such a GMP certificate to be used for the mandatory animal testing exemption. We collected some information. We collected 11 member states that tell us the specific procedures, but also the cost to obtain these GMP certificates. Sometimes it's just the same procedure as a free sale certificate. Sometimes it's a completely new procedure. Situation varies, but in the report, of course, you see the QR code here to access the report. We have collected information about 11 member states. Of course, this doesn't mean that there are only 11 member states releasing such GMP certificates. Probably will be more, but we haven't found this information. And this is an example. This is a screenshot from the report that we have. You see, we have for each member state, we have the name of the competent authorities in English and the local language, and then the procedure, the cost, and so on. All this information is in our report, so I'm not going to focus on this. Yeah, you're welcome to download the report. So this was the first document to be submitted during the notification process. The second document is the safety assessment report. Actually, Vian mentioned during her presentation that since from May last year to December, only those companies that wanted to obtain animal testing exemption were required to submit the safety assessment report. But since January this year, actually everybody, all companies going through the notification process must submit it. So it's not really something exclusive, something that you have to do, something extra you have to do. It's something you should submit anyway. So, but in a simplified version, while starting from 2024, it will be a more, let's say, detailed, complex version. Yeah, I'm not going to go in detail through this because Vian already did it excellently. But I just would like to say that this report is based on the specific requirements outlining these technical guidelines for cosmetic safety assessment, and there is and it can be done independently or through third-party professional institutions. And there is a standard structure which we've seen here, and we also saw it in the previous presentation. So I would end it here because I don't want to take time from the next speaker, which I'd like to dedicate more time to questions. But I would like to say, as I mentioned at the beginning, please, we are here for you. If you have any questions, or if you just would like to provide us some feedback about animal testing exemption, if you have applied for it, if you have obtained it, let us know. We would be very interested in knowing it. Actually, we also made a small survey in the past days. We only received very few responses, but they were all positive from in business associations in Europe whose members have successfully received the exemption from animal testing. So if your country is not listed in our report, but you are aware that it can issue GMP certificate, let us know, please. We would like to include it in our report. And yeah, gonna ask any time, and that would end my presentation here. Maybe I can take one question. No, I don't have questions for me. So maybe I could, there is one question here. Does it mean that all the products need to do animal testing regardless of the product functions? A general cosmetics can be exempted from animal testing. Of course, if you are not interested in it, you can still do it. But for special cosmetics, it's still required, as I mentioned. I would then move to the next presentation, since there are no questions. Again, we will have a Q&A at the end, and there will be more time for questions. So now it's my opening the slides. It's a great pleasure to introduce, hold on, Mr. Jackie Chang. Jackie, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yes, hi, Jackie.
Hi,
Jackie.
Alessio.
Yes, thank you for being here. Jackie Zhang is the chair of the Cosmetics Working Group of the European Chamber of Commerce in China. He has 18 years of regulatory affairs plus public affairs experience in worldwide leading companies, and has a lot of insights and knowledge and experience in both Chinese and global cosmetics regulations. At the same time, Jackie is also the Asia Regulatory Affairs Director at L'Oreal. So huge company, very active in China for many years, and yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you here, Jackie. I'll give the floor to you to introduce a little bit maybe about the working group, the survey that you have run. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Alessio. So let me share my screen. So I think, can you see my screen now? Yes?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Let me put on the full screen. Okay. So first of all, thank you for the invitation to give me this opportunity to be on behalf of the EU Cosmetic Working Group, to give you some insight about these European companies' feedback on these new cosmetic regulations, especially for the animal testing exemption. As Alessio just mentioned, actually, in the past few weeks, we conduct a survey of this animal testing exemption. Before I take you through this survey result, please let me introduce a little bit for the European Chamber of Commerce in China. Actually, the EU in China was founded in 2000 by 51 founded members with the shared goal to establishing a common voice of the European Union and also European business operating in China. So far, the European Chamber of Commerce in China already have more than 1,700 members in the 7 chapters operating in the 9 cities. And specifically for Cosmetic Working Group, actually, this working group consists of the more than 70 members, including a large number of the international well-known cosmetic companies, brands, and also with a diverse of the business model, like the cosmetic finish companies and also the chemical companies as the raw material supplier, as well as the other NGOs. And also, the majority of the member are the industry leaders, as L'Oreal, as the Estée Lauder, P&G, Unilever, and LVMH, a lot of the well-known brands or companies you have been aware. And also, most of the member companies, they already established the research and development center as well as the production facility in China. In case of you want to understand more details, please feel free to scan the QR code on the left upside, and you will get more details in terms of all the activities and also lobby directions of our Cosmetic Working Group. And also in the past many years, actually, our EU Cosmetic Working Group member already put a lot of effort to promote animal alternative tests and also to advocate eliminating the animal testing for the cosmetic product. And as everyone understands, with the new CSAR implement in January 1st, 2021, we have a new cosmetic registration and notification dossier guideline released last March. And effective May 1st last year, we will enjoy the animal testing exemption for the general or non-special cosmetic product under some condition, as shared by Alessio in his last presentation. So this is actually a joint industry lobby success, and is just one of all the lobby success we already made in the past few years for the cosmetic industry. And specific for the animal testing exemption, actually, I think everyone understood it's very important, especially for cosmetic sector, not only because of the animal welfare or the ethics, but also more importantly, it's also a way to leverage the advance of the biology and also the toxicology science, and to make a more robust even safety assessment on the cosmetic product to protect our consumer. And also for sure, it's a facilitator for our global trade in terms of cosmetic product, especially from the European countries. And in terms of the survey we conduct, we have developed a series of questions and ask our cosmetic working group members to answer. And this survey we last around 1 week, and we got 12 response. Among of them, 9 of them are multinational company, 3 of them are small medium enterprise. And all of them, all the response, I mean the 12 members already clarified that they already got the GMP certificate from foreign organizations. And here we list the countries that our member get the GMP certificate. And based on the selection number or amount from the high ranking to the low. So you can see from France as the #1, and then UK, Italy, Germany, and also a lot of other European members. As Alessio already mentioned, at least 11 member states in Europe already set up the mechanism to release this GMP certificate for the China importation purpose. But also you can see some other region like USA, Canada, Japan, Korea, and also other Asian countries like Thailand. So this is quite a broad impact on all the key cosmetic market outside of China to facilitate their exportation from the sourcing country to China. And also in terms of this GMP certificate, where you have the GMP certificate from either it's a foreign government authority or it's other organization like the association. So the answer is most of them, the 9 members said, okay, they already got the authority issued GMP certificate. And others, 3 is more the other organization like association, trade association. And in terms of the GMP certificate, which kind of standard, did this GMP certificate follows? The most frequent, the answer is the ISO 22716. Yeah, it's 11 response. It's a majority of the response. And also we ask specifically when your company to apply this GMP certificate from the foreign authority or organization, what's your top 3 challenges. And now we list the result or feedback from our member. I think the number 1 reply is as Alessio said, some country, indeed, they don't have the mechanism to release the authority GMP certificate for cosmetic factories. So this is the major issue we are facing as an industry issue. And the other 2 is for some occasion, some GMP certificate, there's no original copy. So this is another challenge because it will refer to the issue that you need to do the legalization or notarization. And also this kind of the legalization, notarization copy will also bring additional cost and also lead time for the company to fulfill their dossier requirement for the future submission. And we also ask the question to our members, whether your organization already applied for the animal testing exemption in China. It's a half-half answer from our members. So which means that at least half of our member already try to submit the authority issued animal, the GMP certificate to apply the animal testing exemption. So which is the good news. And in terms of these challenges to get the GMP certificate and also safety assessment report to be recognized in China, we also conduct a survey, because sometimes when you get the GMP certificate from the foreign authority and also you submit your safety assessment report to our Chinese authority, whether they can be accepted. This is very critical in operation. So based on the survey, here is the top answer. So first of all, there's still difficulties or barriers, as mentioned before. The certificate has to be released or issued by the European competent authority. So sometimes if it is not the case, if it is by our association, you may get the challenge. And also sometimes, like in US, some of our special cosmetic classified in China actually are OTC drug in US. So if you get the OTC drug GMP, some cases you need to provide a kind of additional explanation letter to clarify some OTC drug actually are classified in China, but not necessary in other country like in US. And also we got some feedback from members, even though the member get the GMP certificate, but they cannot kick off the product notification. This is because the difficulty of getting other newly required registration dossier or document, especially here, we are talking about the raw material submission code or the Annex 14, which is the raw material information sheet, which is newly required product registration or notification documentation. So this is a barrier associated with other hot industry issues we are facing now. And also we got some feedback from the members that sometimes they also not sure whether safety report have to be done by the Chinese assessor or whether the overseas assessor is acceptable or not. And based on our understanding on the current written regulation, it should be okay because there's no specific requirement to say the safety assessor has to be Chinese. And also with the perspective looking forward, we also have some survey to ask the member to share their needs in terms of the future animal testing exemption in China. So here we got some top response. So first of all, it is special cosmetic, because as far as now, actually all the special cosmetic in China still subjected to the animal testing on the finished product. So this is a very important topic. Actually, I think as an industry, we would like to continue to advocate our authority, our regulator, to consider to abandon. And also another one is the new ingredient. I think most of our colleagues and also members in this cosmetic sector, we also want to bring the new cosmetic innovation by the new ingredients. But however, based on the current new ingredient regulation on their notification or registration, under some condition, the animal testing are still needed. So this is also another critical issue we are facing. And then that's why the third need is actually we want to continue jointly advocate animal alternative testing in China, and also advocate other non-in vivo, it's a more in silico safety assessment approach, like TTC, like read across. And also we got some feedback from our members, even for the current non-special or general cosmetic in terms of the animal testing exemption. Because under some condition, for example, the anti-acne or anti-wrinkle rinse-off product, based on the registration or notification testing guideline, all these kind of product, or even including the low pH product below the pH 3.5, you need to conduct the human safety test. So in terms of this human safety test, based on the current requirement, you need to have the animal test first, and then you can conduct the human test. So this is another barriers, even for this non-special or non-functional or general cosmetic to complete the animal testing exemption. So I think we are together with all the members, with other, together with even other associations, we are driving the update or revision of the related the technical guideline or testing guideline to enable us to also fulfill the animal testing exemption, even for this product. And also another hot topic is the infant or baby children cosmetic product. Because of the stringent requirement, this kind of product cannot be waived from this animal testing. So this is another hot topic raised by our members. So this is the last slide of mine. And also I want to take this opportunity to thank our European Union business manager, June Yu, who actually helped me consolidate all this survey feedback and also prepare this slide deck. So again, I welcome any question regarding this feedback and also general industry advocacy of the cosmetic sector by Cosmetic Working Group of EUCCC. And also again, feel free to scan the QR code to know more about our activity in our Cosmetic Working Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and also thanks to June as well, also from our side for facilitating this. Really a lot of insights. I understand, if I can summarize, this animal testing, many companies are obtaining this exemption, but there are still some small things, some administrative things which could be certainly improved, and of course the scope could also be expanded. Let's hope that in the future soon these changes will be done. Actually, there are some questions in the Q&A, but I also have a couple of questions myself to you, Jackie. the first one is more maybe you mentioned that one of the issues for applying to this animal testing exemption is that the GMP certificates often there is no original copy. With this, you mean that the certificate is issued only online, like a digital version, or the original copy means that there is no paper version, right?
Yes, I think so. Although we don't have the follow-up question to dig out what's the reality in terms of this response, but based on my knowledge, indeed, there is some occasion that the authority intend to use the digital way to fulfill this GMP certificate. I think this is kind of a trend, especially in the European Union. But however, based on our understanding, so far it's very difficult to convince our Chinese regulator to accept this kind of a digital copy without any, stamp or signature.
Stamp. Yeah, stamps are very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And maybe still related to this somehow. So you mentioned your let's say your advocacy efforts to advocate for alternative animal testing methods and things like those. How optimistic are you?
Oh wow,
that
this
this can actually fade? Yeah.
And yeah, I think I will share my perspective, and also June, feel free to add on. I think first of all, as I said, EU CCC has been working on this topic for many years, and also most recently, the EU CCC is going to co-organize a few events together with the UK BSI and also our NIFDC, the National Institute for Food and Drug Control, as you know, which is the technical force under the NMPA for the cosmetic sector, with the special focus on the safety assessment of this, cosmetic product sector. And also, I think the animal alternative testing is one of the key, issue or topics we want to promote. So, I mean, in the other future occasion, we will continue to advocate especially the validated animal alternative testing method to be officially adopted in China, especially like the OECD validated or other EQM or EQM validated. And also, to be honest, we also want to promote the QM in China, means that we need to have a very institutional setup of the technical institute or body to holistically look at the regulatory adoption of animal alternative testing method in China. So this is kind of an ongoing advocacy lobby. And in terms of how optimistic, for me, I think it's quite promising. Yeah. Because why? First of all, if you look at the released technical standard in the past few years by the NMPA or NIFDC, you can see there's already emerging more and more animal alternative testing method officially adopted, released by our Chinese authority to be added to the STSC, which is the safety and also technical standard for cosmetic. And also based on our current dialogue with the NIFDC and also experts, my impressions, they are quite open. So that's why we can continue our constructive dialogue between the European side, between the either European legislator or European expert like the ICCS expert, and also with the Chinese side. So I think they show the openness, and they would like to investigate the global progress in terms of the validation of animal alternative testing methods. So this is my perspective. I think it's quite optimistic. It only takes some time,
Of course. Absolutely. Thank you, Jackie, for this. Another question for you, I guess, and then I guess we can move to the previous questions which were not answered. There is one question here. Does NMPA have plans to be in line with the requirements of safety assessment set by EU cosmetic regulations?
Okay, that's also another good question. And also maybe I cannot answer it because I'm not the MPA official and also the technical force. But I mean, in terms of the observation, let's see. I think around the last March, our Chinese regulator, NMPA, also released the cosmetic safety evaluation guideline. And if you compare this guideline versus the SCCS notes of guidance for the safety assessment on the cosmetic ingredient and their product, my impression is the majority, the principle are quite shared or are the same or consistent. So I think nowadays, for sure, the Chinese regulator and also a Chinese expert would like to look into what's the up-to-date safety assessment approach in the world, especially in Europe. And then they will, based on the Chinese reality and also situation, and then to do some adaptation or adoption. So that's up to our authorities' decision. But I think they are still open to take all the global well-known guidance as a good reference when they consider the Chinese safety assessment guideline.
Thank you, Jackie. So maybe now I will move into other questions which were asked earlier during the presentation. There is one about SGS certification issued in Europe, if it's considered valid in China. I think maybe I can even answer this. I think for the purpose of animal testing, no, because for animal testing you need the GMP certificate must be issued by government authority. But for the other aspects of the notification process, I think it can be valid, but maybe Bian can provide more details on this.
I also agree with you that if it's for exemption of animal testing, then the GMP from SGS is not accepted. But if it's not for applying for the exemption, then the GMP issued in Europe for an overseas factory can also be accepted in China.
Very good. Thank you. So all this, there is another question about, are all these regulations we have introduced in detail today, are these valid for both general trade or cross-border e-commerce? Maybe still to you, Vivian.
Okay, and no, as I think the most part we discussed today is just for the general trade, because as far as based on my understanding is that for the cross-border e-commerce, it's a very special policy which we also don't need to provide any product registration certificate or filing certificate for this special channel. So the regulations we mentioned today is also not applicable to this channel.
Yeah, indeed. I also mentioned in my presentation that in fact, cross-border e-commerce allows you to sell products which otherwise will need to go through some conformity assessment, testing, registration, a lot of things. And but cross-border e-commerce allows you to, not to go through this, because goods are considered personal goods. And in fact, this was also the only, let's say, method that European companies had to sell cruelty-free products in China before last year. So yeah. Another question from you, actually a couple of questions. What information shall be included in the annual report?
For the annual report, actually, it's very basic information of the product import and sales. For example,
the annual report will just check if the product has been fined by the Chinese authority, or if the product stop importation for more than 6 months, and if the company has to do some self-check to make sure the product complies with the latest regulation. You can just, in the annual report, the company just need to check yes or no. It's a very simple report, actually.
Okay, very good. Another one related to ingredients and submission code. So plant extract direct source is mixtured. How to get the submission code in this case? And there's a follow-up to this question. The person is asking how to fill the range in percentage by weight for the final products or part of the product.
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but I want to mention that first for the mixture, for the compound ingredients, we can get a submission code for the whole group ingredients. And of course, you need to submit the compensation when you apply for the code for the whole group. And about the compensation, you can you can set up a range of each detailed ingredients in this group. But for how to define the range, I'm not specialized in the ingredient, how to say, production. So I will still leave this question, I think, to the supplier. I think they have their industry normal way to define the range of a mixture product.
All right. I don't see other questions, so maybe I would invite participants, if there are other questions, to submit them now. There was actually one, it was answered in written form. For anti-recall products, is there an exemption for animal testing? And maybe Jackie, you want to read your answer, or maybe just respond verbally.
Yes, thank you. So actually, as I mentioned in the response, for the anti-wrinkle rinse-off product, the human safety test is needed. And also in the current testing guideline, the precondition for the human safety test is the animal test. So it's a kind of a circle. So when you ask the registration testing lab to do the human test for your rinse-off anti-wrinkle product, this lab may ask you to do the animal testing first. So this is the current problem. I mean, in the current situation, we already advocate to our regulator that, okay, before the human test, just similar to the efficacy testing guideline, as long as the robust sound safety assessment has been conducted. The animal testing. So this is a still ongoing kind of lobby. Yeah.
Okay, and thanks. There is a clarification requested on this. Do you mean a rinse-off product with anti-wrinkle effect?
Yes, yes, it's a both. It must be the anti-wrinkle rinse-off product. If it is the anti-wrinkle leave-on, there's no such kind of requirement in the current testing guideline.
Okay, very good. All right, maybe then I don't see other questions, but maybe I take this last occasion to ask one question from my side. We are talking about testing animal, of course, but also human safety. But also during Vivian's presentation, we talked about other microbiology testing. So all this testing, doesn't need to be done in China necessarily, or can also be done by some laboratories in Europe, or this question maybe to both Jackie and Vian.
Okay, Yeah, I think based on my understanding, actually, first of all, let's be clear whether this testing is because of the mandatory for the registration and the notification. Yes, based on my understanding, if it is mandatory for the registration and the notification, it's part of your it's part of your registration or notification testing. And then this kind of testing has to be done in the China CMA lab. The CMA lab is the China methodology accreditation lab. But sometimes if it is not for the purpose of the registration or notification, it's for the claim support, the substantiation. For example, if you want to run a clinical study for the anti-wrinkle or anti-acne, you can feel free to choose either the China-based lab or even overseas lab.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with Jackie. Yeah, if the testings are required by registration and filing requirements, then it's mandatory to be done in China. But if it's if the testing is just carried out by the companies for some like marketing use or some other R&D use internally, then you can choose the labs by yourself. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So I think we could end this here. Again, this is, by the way, a QR code for a short feedback questionnaire that we would really appreciate if you could fill. Actually, it's also a way for us to get your input for other webinars that we could do in the future. So we would really appreciate if you could fill this. Again, we are going to share the slides of this webinar in the next few days. We are also going to upload the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel and on our website, actually. But in any case, if you have any questions or if you would like to discuss in more detail some aspects we touched upon today, feel free to reach out to us or to the speakers directly, of course. We will be very happy to put you in touch. Maybe yeah, I think we could end it here. Again, thank you all the speakers for being here, for sharing your insights and experience. Thanks to all the participants. Actually, we had many participants today, so we are very happy to see such big interest from the business community. And thanks, of course, to the Italian Chamber for co-organizing this with us, and to UCC. And yeah, I don't know if Vincenzo, you would like to add something at the end, or we could just.
I think we can wrap up, Alessio.
Okay, so thank you all, and see you next time. Next week we're going to have this webinar on chemical substances, so still related somehow. So you're very welcome to join. Have a good day or evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.